Hello and welcome to another First Four Friday. I've got four good ones again, as usual. The first one is The Homework Machine by Dan Gutman. Meet the D Squad, a foursome of fifth graders at the Grand Canyon School made up of a geek, a class clown, a teacher's pet, and a slacker. They are bound together by one very big secret, the homework machine. Because the machine, codenamed Belch, is doing their homework for them, they start spending a lot of time together, attracting a lot of attention. And attention is exactly what you don't want when you're keeping a secret. Before long, things start to get out of control, and Belch becomes much more powerful than they ever imagined. Now the kids are in a race against their own creation, and the loser could end up in jail or worse. Dun dun dun. This is a Lexile level of 680. And it is I like the dedication to kids who hate homework but do it anyway. Introduction. Police Chief Rebecca Fish, Grand Canyon, Arizona. Seen a lot of strange stuff go down in 10 years working here. Probably has something to do with being so close to the canyon. Having a mile-deep hole in your backyard brings out the weirdness in folks. I remember the time that gambler from LA lost a bet in Las Vegas, and his friends drove him up here, forced him to parachute into the canyon. Guy almost died. You get all kinds in this part of the country. The canyon attracts him like flies to dog do. But this recent situation involving the children was one of the stranger cases I ever ran into. We called in everybody who had anything to do with what happened and taped their private testimony for the record. Far as I'm concerned, this case is closed shut. Let's hope these four students learned their lesson. This'll never happen again, that's for darn sure. Chapter 1, September. Sam Dawkins, grade 5. The police lady says me and Brenton and Judy and Kelsey have to each come in separately and talk about what happened. Okay, so here goes. Is this thing on? My name is Sam Dawkins, but everybody calls me Sneakwad. On account of that's my last name spelled backwards. Dawkins, Sneakwad, get it? Most kids call me Snick. It's kind of cool. Beats having a nickname like Boogerface or Fart Boy or something stupid like that. I was new to the school. I didn't know anything, and I didn't get kicked out of my old school because I refused to get a haircut. That's a lie. I don't know how that rumor got started. I don't care if you believe me. That's the truth. Anyway, my parents moved here from Oregon. My dad was in the Air Force, and that's why we moved to Arizona. He was assigned to Luke Air Force Base near Phoenix. The bottom line is, we messed up. Stuff happens. We're not perfect. We all feel bad. We won't do it again. What are you going to do? Throw us in jail? That's my statement. What? You need more than that? Details? Okay. What do you want to know? Kelsey Donnelly, grade 5. My name is Kelsey Donnelly. I really don't see the reason why we got to do this. The police lady told me that I have to make a statement in private and tell the whole story of what happened from the very beginning in September. Like, I'm a creep or something. I barely remember what happened last week. Forget about way back in September. Look, we're sorry about what happened. We just were having a little bit of fun and it got out of hand. It's not like we robbed a bank or anything. That's my statement. I can't believe I have to spend my summer in this room with a tape recorder when I could be out having fun. Can I go now? Judy Douglas, grade 5. My name is Judy Douglas. My mom works at home and my dad works for the National Park Service. He cuts down dead trees and does controlled burns to help prevent forest fires. The whole thing started because certain people, who shall remain nameless, did some thoughtless things that I don't need to discuss here. This is so unfair. I have almost straight A's and I'm in the G&T program. That's gifted and talented. I would never break the law or do anything dishonest. Things just got out of control. The next thing we knew, we had to go talk to the police. Do you have any idea how humiliating this entire ordeal has been for me? Do you know how upset my parents were when they found out? And now this is going to be on my permanent record, probably for the rest of my life. If this keeps me out of law school someday, I will be so angry. I'll sue. That's what I'll do. Well, if I get into law school, I'll sue. But if I get into law school, I won't need to sue. Oh, I just wish I could go to sleep and wake up and find out it was all a dream, like it never happened. Hey, so that is the first four of The Homework Machine. Next one is the Aurora County All-Stars by Deborah Wiles. This is a Lexia level of 670. The back of this is kind of funny. It's a list, as you can see. And it says baseball rules and bylaws for the Aurora County All-Stars. 1, no girls. 2, we play every day. We play in the rain, we play if it's cold, we play if it's hot, we play until dark or until too many kids are called home. Then we play catch. 3, if less than 9 kids show up, we play flies and grounders. If more than 9 kids show up, we make 2 teams. 4, 3 strikes make an out and 3 strikes make an inning. 3 outs make an inning. No exceptions. 5, no spitballs. Spitting is allowed. We share balls, bats, gloves, and gum, not chewed. 6, if a batter hits the silver maple, it's an automatic triple. If he hits the Chinaberry tree or the schoolhouse, it's an automatic home run. No one has ever hit the Chinaberry tree or the schoolhouse. 7, balls hit into the cemetery stay there. 8, every July 4th, we play a real game with the Rally Redbugs. It's our only one big game of the year, and we promise never to miss it. House Jackson, age 12, star pitcher and team captain of the Aurora County All-Stars, has a secret. For the past year, while sidelined with a broken elbow, he has spent every afternoon at the bedside of an old, mysterious man the other kids call Mean Man Boyd, and he doesn't want anyone to know. Now, House is finally ready to play ball again. But his team's biggest and only game of the year might be canceled thanks to the very girl who caused his broken elbow. It's almost too much to bear. But in the standoff that ensues, House finds a courage he didn't know he possessed and discovers that just about everyone in Aurora County, Mississippi has a secret. Acclaimed author, blah, 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 this is about author. So, getting into the story, starts off with a map. I love maps in books. Chapter 1. To me, every hour of the day and night is an unspeakably perfect miracle. Walt Whitman. Mr. Norwood Reinhardt Bogard Boyd, age 88, philanthropist, philosopher, and maker of mystery, died on a June morning in Mabel, Mississippi, at home in his bed. He died at the simmering time just before daybreak. Crickets tucked themselves under rocks for the day. Blue jays chitter-chattered in the pines. High above the treetops, cirrus clouds wisped across the slate blue sky. Mr. Norwood Reinhardt Beauregard Boyd lay unbreathing on a feather mattress surrounded by a carved rosewood bed frame with a high headboard that he had bought in Madagascar on his travels many years ago, before he closed himself up in his house with his treasures. All night long, the June bugs had tapped against the glass panes at the open bedroom window, trying to buzz into Mr. Norwood Boyd's room and touch the lamplight. As the light came into the day, the hard-shelled little insects fell into an opening between the glass and the screen, where they hummed together at the bottom of the window in soft confusion. Outside the window, deep in the tall trees, a garter snake slithered in search of a mice. It was June 17th, a Thursday. Mr. Norwood Boyd died a quiet death attended by sky, clouds, crickets, birds, bugs, snakes, and one human being, House Jackson. House Jackson, age 12, crackerjack baseball pitcher, obedient son, and keeper of his own counsel, had arrived just before the simmering time. He eased himself gingerly into a ladder-back chair next to the carved bed. He held his breath and watched Mr. Norwood Boyd breathe and stare at the ceiling in faraway silence. Instinctively, for it has been his habit, he reached for the book on the bedside table, Treasure Island. He opened it to the page that had been saved with a ribboned bookmark and read out loud in a mechanical voice. Still, Silver was unconquered. I could hear his teeth rattle in his head, but he had not yet surrendered. At that moment, Mr. Norwood Boyd surrendered. He closed his eyes and opened his mouth. A rattling sound came from his throat. The smell of Mr. Norwood's rattled breath made House blink and sit back in his folding chair. That breath, the sound and smell of it, traveled the entire room, spangling the air like a salute, as if that breath was the last farewell to the big old bed, a last farewell to the lighted lamp, a last farewell to the rose-patterned carpet, to the bureau where the clothes were kept, to the bedside table where the water shimmered in the glass, and to House, who had been faithful. When there was no more rattle and no more breath, House did as he had been instructed to do. He called Doc McCree's office from the big black telephone beside Mr. Norwood Boyd's bed. His fingers trembled as he dialed, and his voice cracked as he tried to speak. Mr. Norwood Boyd. He was out of breath. Who is this? Asked a cranky voice, Miss Betty Ramsey at the doctor's answering service. He's dead. House felt the truth tingle across his shoulders, up his neck, through his scalp. He reached under his baseball cap and gave his head a small scratch. Is this a joke? Miss Betty did not like jokes. No, ma'am, House whispered. His pale cheeks were on fire. He could practically hear his freckles sizzle. And that is 4 minutes of this. Aurora County All-Stars. Okay, the next one, this is a historical fiction. Worth Lexile level 770. Before the accident, Nathaniel's life seemed pretty good. His help around the farm made his father proud, but now, with a busted leg, Nathaniel can't do farm work anymore, so his father adopts another son through the orphan train. Feeling replaced and useless, Nathaniel attends school for the first time. Meanwhile, sturdy and strong John is able to do the work that earns Pa's attention. But the truth is, John Worth has his own set of troubles. He is treated more like a servant than a son. Kept awake at night by nightmares of his family's death, he remembers having a Pa who took pride in him. But now he has no one, until a community battle and a special book reveal a potential friend and a chance for understanding. And this is a winner of the Scott Odell Award for Historical Fiction. I love historical fiction books. Chapter 1. Lightning in the Grass. Ma says you can hear the lightning in tall grass before a storm. Haven't heard it myself, but she swears there's a crackling in the grass like tiny bolts of lightning traveling from blade to blade. I remember of her warning me of it that day. Nathaniel James, hearing my name, pulled me up short at the front door. Yes, ma'am. Ma looked up at me with her tinker's eye perched in front of her forehead. The lightning sparking in the grass this morning. Better warn your father. I'll be out in a tick-tock. I nodded, stepping into the eye-squinting sunlight. A tinker's work tunes up your senses. You spend so much time working with tiny pieces of a clock that your eyes get to seeing the finest things. Ma could spot one of my brown hairs in a basket of rye bread. And with all that concentrating with your eyes, your ears get to concentrating too. That's how come my ma can hear lightning in the grass. Storm's coming! I shouted to Pa over the fence as I came up to the barn. Pa looked up from cleaning Vernon's back hoof. Your mother hear it in the grass? Yes, sir. He dropped the foot, patted Vernon's flank, then stepped aside to stare up at the sky, as blue and clear as Ma's wedding sheets hung out to dry. Either that woman's a diviner or she's got relatives in the fairy kingdom she isn't telling me about. Stretching his back with his fists pressed into his muscles, Pa said, Well, guess this means we better get the hay in today. Today? We had a field of hay drying in the prairie sun, but just one wagon, 2 horses, a few pitches, and our own hands. Anything left on the ground will get too wet to be of use to us, Nate. What we don't get in, we lose, Pa said as he led Vernon into the barn. What if it's only lightning on the way? I asked, following Pa. Ma's ears never told her wrong about lightning, but sometimes it traveled alone, striking at the ground like it quarreled with its companions, thunder and rain, and built up a good bit of fire-spitting anger. Then we'd better get it in before it catches fire, Pa said, backing Vernon to the wagon. And the sooner you quit flapping at the mouth, the sooner we can get it out there. Yes, sir. I ran to lend a hand. Within the hour, we were in the field, Ma and Pa pitching from the windrows on either side of the wagon, me packing it on the hay net. Vernon and Belle munching their share until Pa gave the yee-haw to move forward. He had those bays trained like a couple of hunting hounds. They chased their own tail if he told them to. The sun baked me until even my skin felt stiff when I moved. But we still only had a quarter of the field brought in when we heard the thunderheads rumbling in, casting long gray shadows and putting a nice chill into the air. Put some step into it, Nate, Pa shouted. We've got a storm chasing us. And chase it did. The clouds swept in from the east. We picked hay to the north. The thunder kept threatening like big old empty cloud clearing its throat. Maybelle and Vernon jittery. They went to sidestepping and flicking their ears. The first lightning strike made Belle whinny. Ma yelled, It's getting close! but we had only the wagon 3/4 full on this run. The storm had us licked, and Pa knew it. Throwing his fork into the wagon, he yelled, "Better to save what we can than risk it for what we can't. Let's bring this load in." We pulled up to the barn as the wind picked up. Ma headed out to bring in the other animals and batten down the house. Pa jumped down, pitch in hand. "Get that net ready to haul, Nate." "Yes, sir." My arms felt like they'd fly off with the next throw of hay, but I pitched it into the center of the net so Pa could haul it off to the loft. The storm heated up, the thunder booming louder, the lightning lashing harder, the air filling with the moist feeling that comes just before it rains. All that racket had Vernon and Belle fidgety. They kept jostling the wagon. "Steady," Pa called out from the loft doors, but that didn't steady him none. He threw the hooks down into the wagon. "Hitch 'em!" I scrambled to hook the net while Ma brought Dimple around to pull it. That old cow had eyes as big as a pitching ball at the fair. She stepped into the rope and began to pull, Ma leading her with a bucket of oats. Okay, that is Worth. And the last one, also historical fiction, is 3 Against the Tide. The Lexile level on this one is 600. So all of these are a little, they're closer to the beginning of our 4th grade reading level, but they're all great books. The Civil War truly hits home when Susanna's father is called away to help the Confederate Army. 12-year-old Susanna is put in charge of the family's South Carolina island plantation and her 2 younger brothers, Nettie and Samuel. Then, Yankee soldiers invade the island, forcing Susanna and her brothers to escape to their other home in Charleston. When a fire destroys their Charleston house, Susanna decides nothing will stop them from finding their father. Throughout the dangerous journey, she can't help questioning the traditions her family and most Southerners have been fighting to protect. Maybe it's time to turn against the tide. Three Against the Tide. Chapter 1, The Visitor. If you ask people in Charleston when the war began, they will tell you about a springtime morning when ladies cheered from rooftops and cannon fire thundered. For me, it began on a Sunday in late October, when everything around me, the house, the fields, the patient river, slept peacefully in a golden haze, until an unexpected visitor broke the stillness of that afternoon. Terrapin Island had seemed a quiet, separate kingdom, and the cruel crusade that had begun 6 months before nothing more than a fleeting cloud on the distant horizon. Papa was in his study reading. Nettie and Sammy were fishing in the tidal creek that curled through the woods behind our house. From my window, I could see their heads bobbing in the tall grasses. Nettie's dark as a waving ring. Sammy's the brownish gold of a rice field at harvest time. Sammy's laughter rang through the trees. I put down my pen. I dearly missed fishing with my brothers, but my 12th birthday had passed and Papa said it was time to learn to be a lady.